Yo guys, welcome back to a brand new reaction. Today we're going to be reacting to FNAF How to Stop the Mimic for Good by Game Theory. So, yeah. Make sure to go to Game Theory's channel. Make sure to check out the original video. Show them some love, and let's not waste any more time and get straight into the reaction.
Sun and Moon are the key to solving the Mimic. We always knew that these strange characters were in some way connected to our latest big bad. But thanks to Secret of the Mimic, we finally know why. And it tells us everything we need to know to end it all.
Because Sleepy Moon and
Hello Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's looking for lore all day and night. And I've been deep on the lore hunt, friends, thanks to the release of Secret of the Mimic. In the last episode, we focused heavily on the past and present of the Mimic. Or Mimics, M1 and M2. M2 being the physical animatronic that we fight during the game. A copy of M1's programming gone wrong that ends up locked away underneath...
Which... M1 used to inhabit that endoskeleton, which Edwin turned M1 into a program and just kept the endoskeleton just in case, and then made M2.
Harry's costume manor, and eventually the Pizzaplex all those years later. Thanks to the inclusion of the scoop and costumes from MCM, the spare parts we find lying around the facility, and, you know, the fact he's still doing the whole attack humans thing because of what Edwin did to it.
Not him. You're not. Stop sounding like him.
M1, on the other hand, is a program that during the game is primarily appearing as Fiona, Edwin's deceased wife, trying to fix M2 in order that she can get her son, David, back. She convinces Edwin to build something called the Cradle, a large computer that mixes spawns from during Ruin. The problem is, as time's gone on, M1 gets removed from the Cradle and is used by Fazbear to create a VR game, Help Wanted, being taught all about Afton's escapades and therefore beginning to mimic his actions, creating Glitch Trap. Now, M1 is confused, still trying to bring back her family, but who her family is has become a mix of her own family, like the magician and nanny bots representing her and Edwin, with the children of the Afton family that we saw in the original run of games. But what we didn't get to talk about last time was the future of the Mimic and its connection to a character that we have been theorizing about for years, Sun and Moon. When he first showed up in Security Breach, we knew nothing about this guy or what his purpose in the whole story was. By the time Ruin came along, it felt like he had to be connected to the Mimic, with both of them sharing the same individually moving teeth and the fact that he wears a jester costume, which felt very connected to both the jester costume we learned about in the books as well as the whole Fall Fest carnival. But now we have Secret of the Mimic, and Sun and Moon are all over this thing. We've got OG versions of the characters, we've got symbolic mini-games, we've even got
Sleepy Moon, we got,
Lullaby, all of which make one thing extremely clear.
The Lullaby?
What's so right about Sun and Moon being connected.
I mean, it's just an
throughout the game, we are
old-fashioned
being shown that these two, or three, or I suppose four characters are intrinsically connected in so many interesting ways. But most importantly, Sun and Moon is actually the key to not just solving the Mimic, but ending it once and for all. I hope you've knocked over all your stackable toys, friends, because it's finally time to clean up the mess that is Sun and Moon. But before we get started, quick reminder, on August 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be hosting our FNAF Secret of the Mimic live talkback.
I will be watching it off screen just for some more lore and info. But I will not be live streaming it. I will not be recording it. So, yeah.
And I'm going to be joined by the wonderful John FNAF, Right-Toast, Ivy's Fantasy, Hyperdroid, and Dorko. We're going to be talking all things Secret of the Mimic and even taking some questions from you guys. So make sure you're subscribed and tune in to be a part of it. You won't want to miss it. Remember, that's August 16th, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on Game Theory. But now, back to the video. The first instance we get of Sun or Moon appearing in this game is right as we enter Murray's costume manor for the first time. As we head over to the computer in the security office, we can find a few options to select. Maps, obviously a map of the facility. Logs,
Yeah.
which is where we get to see all the juicy lore-filled chat logs that were found from the mailboxes strewn about the building. And then there's our main focus for today, Moon.exe. We've talked about Moon.exe in our previous episodes, but in case you missed those or the massive playthrough we did over on GT Live, it's basically a game within a game. We start in a bedroom, and while the goal is initially unclear, if you take a wrong turn, you face the wrath of Sleepy Moon, who tells you to go back to bed. Now, as you play the normal game, you can find collectibles inside of presents that you can then load into
Yeah,
the
you'd have to
system,
collect
and they will
all the
appear
collectibles
inside
to get the
Moon.exe
secret
for you
ending,
to
though.
use. Each one serves a specific purpose, either helping you to thwart Moon's attempts to stop you, or giving us information about Edwin and his family. In a previous episode, we've talked about the snow globe that is next to a married man and woman, where the woman looks burnt, and how it's meant to be symbolic of Edwin and Fiona Murray. But that isn't the only lore this game provides us. The initial premise of us being told to go back to bed gives you the impression that we're a child, trying to sneak out of our bedroom and go on an
Yeah, makes
adventure.
sense.
As we go through this adventure, we encounter a baby owl that we can save that then sticks with us throughout the journey, cooing and rubbing up against us like a pet. However, things take a weird turn when we encounter the old woman that lives in a cabin in the woods. This old woman has a head covered
That's
in
Sun,
spikes,
I'm
kinda
pretty sure.
like you'd expect a sun to be represented. After fulfilling her tasks and fixing her 3 broken masks, she then hands you a final mask, the mask of a baby owl. At the same time, our baby owl friend seems to have gone missing, but the oven is now on, and there's a suspicious smell of chicken in the air. With our new mask equipped, this sun woman takes us to a cave that Moon is guarding, only for Moon to see the baby owl mask and to run away crying. This was the
Curious
moment that
on why
things
it
clicked
says
for
it
me. At
smells like
first, I
chicken.
figured we were playing as David, with Moon being an obvious analog for his father Edwin. That's why we got explicit messages like, "Go back to bed, I'm too busy." Things that Edwin would actively say to both David and his wife Fiona.
Just give me a minute. David's 2 years old. He won't remember a thing. Besides, he's got plenty more birthdays.
However, this moment where Moon, Edwin, sees us wearing a baby owl mask and then runs away crying, along with us only gaining the owl mask as the baby owl disappeared, it made me realize we weren't playing as David, but the mimic, M2. M2 was designed to mimic David perfectly, like it was wearing a mask pretending to be him. And we know that that actually really upset Edwin.
Stop. I'm not him. You're not. Stop sounding like him.
This game, therefore, Moon.exe, is essentially M2 learning
Yeah.
how to be David, being taught how to behave, like being in David's bedroom and being told to go back to bed. The baby owl, therefore, the one that we get the mask from that disappears and dies, is
The
the
real-
actual David.
Yeah,
and the
is
old
the real
woman's son,
David,
the
yeah.
one guiding us through the game that directs us on our journey once we have the owl mask, well, the game is pretty clear about who that
Who
is. Once you
coincidentally dies later on inside the game.
execute the parachute program and head down to the R&D department, we find M1, the original mimic, now taking on the persona of Fiona, sitting there like we spoke about last time. And on the monitor surrounding her, we see the same sun character. M1 Fiona is Sun. And that actually explains how M2 learned to be David in the first place. When M1 and Edwin are arguing about whether to make M2, David is already
And which
gone.
makes sense
And you have to
that
deal
the
with
fact
it.
that she
You
was
did it.
able to give
So
us
how did M2
the glitch
learn to copy
permissions.
something that wasn't around to be copied? Well, if you saw our last episode, you'll know that M2 is actually a copy of M1's program, and M1 was around while David was alive. We even see a photo of them sitting on a hill together. So Sun, the one who is
I don't know
controlling and guiding
where
this game
that
for
photo
M2
keeps
is
on
able
popping
to
up
use
at,
her
because I'd
memory
never
of
seen that
David to
photo
help inform
throughout my
M2.
gameplay at all.
This does bring up an interesting detail though. M1 gives M2 the owl mask, and suddenly Baby Owl is gone, being cooked on Sun's stove. We also know that
Oh, it got cooked. Okay,
M1
okay.
was the one that Edwin asked to go down and get David from his playground.
Fiona, go get him. I left him out at the playground.
This would seem to imply that David's death may not have been an accident after all. That M1
And that
actually
M2
killed David.
Killed David. Oh, okay. That makes a lot of
In order that
sense.
she could have a real family,
Yeah.
a robot family, just like her. We spoke
Because she said that the freaking stove smelled like chicken. Okay.
last time about how she's getting confused
Or-
between different
or
iterations
when we
of
interact
Fiona,
with it,
one
it
from the
says
books
smells
and
like
one
chicken
from the
butt.
games, thanks to this note we found in the
get
basement
the
of
point.
MCM. It's possible that she figured out she wasn't the real Fiona, and so wanted her own family, rather than just an inherited one where she didn't really belong. But
my
I'm aware this part's a little bit more
God.
speculative. It just occurred to me while I was writing this. Anyway, the point is that Moon.exe is showing us that Moon equals Edwin and Sun equals Fiona. Well, M1's version of Fiona. This finally explains why we see our
Of
modern
course.
Sun and Moon presented the way they are. By the time we get to Security Breach Glitch Trap, or M1 has control of the Pizzaplex. She is in control of the animatronics, which is why they turn on us in the first place. But when
Yep.
she gets control of Sun and Moon, we see that Sun is the caretaker.
We can finger paint, tell stories.
And
make
he's
basic
passive.
passes till our heads explode.
He's
They are the
he
one who
doesn't
wants things to be
actively try to
perfect
kill
and wants
us
to win the child's affections. They are also the one during Ruin
until
who wants to
Moon
be
comes out.
rebooted.
Reboot. We need to be whole.
Just like M1 Fiona wants M2 to be fixed. Moon, on the other hand,
Naughty boy. It's past your bedtime.
Yep.
they want the child to just go to sleep and are far more aggressive, reflecting how M1 sees Edwin. She believes him to be aggressive both because of Moon.exe and, well, you know.
Stop sounding like him.
However,
Yeah.
there is one more mention of Sun and Moon that's inside Moon.exe that I want to mention, because on the surface, it is slightly confusing. What's not confusing, though, is having gourmet quality meals prepared by
And we are skipping this.
Game
If
Theory.
you guys
You'll
want
get
to check
50%
out the
off
ad,
your
make
first
sure to
order of
check out the
chef-made
original
meals
video,
delivered fresh,
okay?
never frozen, directly to your door. Thanks again to Cook Unity for sponsoring this video, but
But
now let's get
they're not
back into the
sponsoring me,
confusing stuff
so
going
I'm
on
not gonna
inside
include them
Moon.exe.
inside my
Once we get
video.
inside the cave that Moon was guarding, we encounter a broken statue. We go through the various tunnels and one by one find pieces of the statue, putting it back together to create a moon-like figure. Suddenly, we're told that we have been reborn.
You rebuilt yourself,
but now you are
split in two. Moon and Sun, destruction and life.
So, does this throw a hole in my argument here? Sun and Moon are now being used to describe M2, not Edwin and M1. And at first, that was my concern. But as I've thought about it more, I've realized it's not about the metaphor or symbolism changing. They're actually feeding into one another. The rebuilding of the statue is reminiscent of M2 rebuilding itself after Edwin destroyed it.
You know, speaking of legs, what do you think? I just finished mine.
But then,
Yeah.
why a moon statue? Something that specifically references
Yeah.
Edwin. Well, because it's not the same moon. Edwin is represented by Sleepy Moon, a full moon character, but this moon is a
So what he's saying is that the mimicking Edwin is a different moon, which is the crescent moon. Okay.
crescent moon. This is a new character, one that is similar to Sleepy Moon, even inspired by, you could say, but it's entirely its own thing.
Which
and
is
when we're
similar
finished, we are told that it has been
to-
born. M2 putting itself
to
back together
Moondrop.
wasn't just fixing itself, it was reborn
From,
now with a new input.
from
Violence,
Security Breach.
Edwin's violence, Moon's violence. It was no longer just the M1 based program it was before. Edwin's actions affected M2 and caused it to be reborn as the violent animatronic we know now, like a new version of the character Moon. But it isn't just Moon. We're told that it is a combination of that destruction and the life of Sun. M1 wants to create life, making M2 their son, while Edwin wants to destroy M2. These two things have combined together to make the mess that is M2. And those pieces are now at war with each other. Again, just like Sun and Moon are in Security Breach. Duality in this franchise is something that I've wanted to write a theory about for a long time. It felt like there's been so much of it in the series. From the two-toned logo on the Ruin website, the two-colored eyes of the tiger plushie, Sun and Moon, to even as far back as William versus Henry. It's always been about these two opposing sides being mixed together together into one thing, something that usually ends in a mess or tragedy. At the time, I just didn't really know where it was going in order to write the theory on it, but now I understand. This is what it was trying to tell us. Visual clues to tell us the story of Edwin and M1 Fiona without actually spelling it out. It's also why Sun and Moon's moving teeth are the same as the mimics. They may not literally be the same. Sun and Moon may not actually be a mimic, but it's visual storytelling, giving us a physical clue to their connection. We were just missing the key detail of Edwin and M1 even existing in this continuity to be able to tie it all together. Although I'm sure the lore reason for the teeth thing is once again just the mimic rebuilding itself with spare parts. We'll see. But Sun and Moon isn't done teaching us about the mimic just yet, because in Ruin, we get to see that these opposing sides can turn from a mess into something new. We see Sun struggling to keep control while Moon is acting dangerous, again, like we've been seeing with M2. The original program unable to keep control, with the violence taking over and attacking people. But after Cassie is able to plug in the data diver, Fazren, and Eclipse is born. They are calm, fun,
data
friendly,
diver,
exactly
Fazren.
as they were supposed to be. We fixed them. But did you notice the key detail? Eclipse isn't Sun now fully in control, nor is Moon completely gone. It's both halves mixed together in order to create something new. Sure, Sun was trying to help us and was the good side of both of them, but we're being shown that you actually need both sides in perfect balance in order to make things work. And this idea is reflected in Secret of the Mimic 2. When down in the basement, we encounter Sleepy Moon in the flesh, or cloth, or whatever it is he's made out of. And one of the telltale signs he's close by is you can hear him singing.
And good night.
It can be hard to make out the exact lyrics he's singing while you're trying desperately not to lose all your progress, but the melody should definitely ring a bell. It's actually the most popular lullaby of all time, simply called Vagenlie, or Lullaby in English. You may have also heard it known as Brahms' Lullaby, named after its composer, Johannes Brahms. And it goes a little something like this. Lullaby and good night, with roses bed eyes, with lilies overspread, his baby's wee bed. Lay thee down now and rest, may thy slumber be blessed. Lay thee down now and rest, may thy slumber be blessed. Thank you. Now, you could say that the use of this song was just they needed a lullaby from Sleepy Moon to sing, so they picked the most obvious one. But when has that ever been the game theory way? You see, this song wasn't written to be sung on its own. It was designed as a mother and father duet. While the mother would sing the lullaby, alongside it, the father would sing an old German folk song called Sis Andischt, which is a song that the original mother actually used to sing to Brahms when they were together. This would then work as a counter melody underneath the primary melody of the lullaby. Counter melodies are super interesting because rather than a harmony which works in lockstep with the melody, the counter melody is literally a second different melody that plays at the same time. If you try this with just any two songs, you're going to have a lot of clashes and mess, and it's just not going to work. But when done right, these two parts that don't feel like they should go together suddenly begin to almost dance. They bounce off one another, creating something totally new. It's not working together in harmony, but they do work together, despite appearing diametrically opposed. But right now, with Mimic as is, it clearly is a mess. These two forces are working against each other, not as a counter melody, but as clashing melodies. So if Eclipse and the lullaby are showing us we need to bring these pieces into alignment, how do we do that? Well, I think the answer lies in the secret ending of Secret of the Mimic. In order to get M2 to calm down enough that we can insert new programming into it, we have to play a bedtime story for it. The bedtime story itself changes each time, but what doesn't change is the people telling the story. The pre-recorded tapes that we find throughout the Murray household to get here include Edwin's voice and Fiona's voice, both of them working together to tell a story, telling M2 that violence doesn't solve anything in order to bring balance to M2. The lullaby also hints at this because it actually has one more name that I neglected to mention. It's sometimes sometimes known as the Cradle Song or Cradle Lullaby. Just like Cradle.exe, which we spoke about last time, is Mexes, a program designed to soothe M2, keep it under control, but required M1 and Edwin to work together to implement. M1 wants to restore M2. Edwin wants to destroy all versions of the Mimic. These two things shouldn't work together. They feel like conflicting views. But when these characters come into alignment with one another, the song begins to form. M1 cannot restore M2 on her own. Sure, she may have the glitched code, but Edwin's voice was crucial for the plan working. We need to bring M1 and Edwin back together in order to truly stop whatever M2 has become, and to put both M1 and M2 to rest finally. But you may have noticed a problem with that solution. As far as we can tell, Edwin is dead.
Due to a minor detonation, there is damage to my office interior, as well as a small fire. No! Respond, please! I can't move. I can't feel my legs.
M2 blew up part of the house and refused to help
Oh,
Edwin
so that's
while
what that
it
giant
burned and
hole
collapsed
was.
around him. But remember what franchise we're talking about here, friends. Just because someone is dead doesn't mean they're truly gone. In fact, Moon basically tells us as such with the lullabies he's singing. Oh yeah, this thing still has a lot to give in terms of lore significance, and it's to do with the more meta side of it, why it was written and who it was written for. Brahms wrote this lullaby for his close friend Bertha Faber. Brahms and Faber used to date many years before, which is when she used to sing Sis Arndish to him, a song about a shepherd and his lover. When they reconnected years later, she was married to someone else, had a child with another on the way. Brahms wrote this lullaby for the birth of that second child, but it wasn't a completely selfless, sweet act. He wrote it so that when she and her husband sang it together to their baby, he would also be there. It was a way of making sure he was connected to her always, even when he wasn't physically around. If Moon is supposed to represent Edwin, and he's the one singing this song, it makes me think that we're being told that while he may be physically gone, he's not completely gone. He's just somewhere hidden, somewhere we wouldn't expect. And that somewhere, I believe, is Princess Quest. Because I
thought he
think
was gonna
that
say inside of Sleepy Moon. Like this inside the Sleepy Moon costume, but apparently not. Inside of Princess
Edwin
Quest?
is the king. Otherwise
Oh,
known
wow,
as Old
okay.
Man Consequences. Okay, before you start writing in the comments about how I followed in Matt's footsteps and I lost my mind to this franchise,
Yep.
hear me out. I'm not the only person to have had this idea. This idea was actually brought up during our recent live theory crafting session by fellow FNAF theorist Gibby's Horror Homestead. Oh, I see that Gibby Horror Homestead. Edwin as Old Man Consequences. Hello, Gibby. Great for you to join us. This thought actually occurred to me today, and not only had the thought occurred to me earlier that day, since then, I've not been able to get it out of my head. It just makes so much sense to me. I mean, Edwin is the ultimate man of consequence. His creation of crazy gadgets landed him in bed with Fazbear,
Okay, good
who then
point.
took everything from him. His rushed inventions meant things could go wrong easily, so Fiona went to Full Fest to make sure that didn't happen, and she died. He didn't pay enough attention to his son, and so David ended up dead. He created an incredibly
That's actually a
powerful
pretty good
AI
point.
and then beat it up, and so in return, it killed him. Everything Edwin did came back to bite him on the butt. Consequence, thy name is Edwin. Plus, in the Tales from the Peterplex story, the storyteller, Edwin does come back 40 years later and tries to stop the Mimic. And Old Man Consequences in Security Breach is all about equipping the
That would be an excellent parallel. That in the games he is a virtual version of himself.
princess to
Dang,
defeat the
okay.
glitch trap virus, aka the M1 program
Yeah.
that's been corrupted by Afton's influence and is now
Alright.
running the Peterplex. We also know that Game Edwin wants to stop the Mimic, both Mimics.
I let a machine raise my kid. You're not real. What was I thinking?
He realized what he'd created and that it couldn't replace the real thing, which is why he didn't want to fix M2. Instead, just going along with the plan to create mexes to pacify it. Now, I'm not saying that Edwin is possessing Princess Quest or anything like that.
Yeah, I know.
Modern FNAF requires modern solutions, and so I believe it's more likely that, like M1 isn't
I understand
really
what you're
Fiona,
saying.
but the M1 program mimicking Fiona, that this X is another program designed to imitate Edwin, like a
Oh.
digital signature of sorts. In the real world,
Okay.
programmers will sometimes physically put part of themselves into their code. They will leave a line of code or even just a few letters or symbols so that when someone else takes a look, they will know whose code it is. We actually see Gregory do this in GGY. When the animatronics begin behaving strangely, the characters take a look at the code and find the letters GGY all over the place. It's not really doing anything, it's just a digital signature to let you know that this was Gregory's doing. At this point, M1 has been integrated into basically every part of Fazbear Entertainment's technology. M1 is running the show, corrupting everything, but M1 was Edwin's code. He created it, and so I'm suggesting that deep in that programming lies a little piece of himself, almost like a failsafe that's there trying to fight back. Old Man Consequences. In FNAF World, he was buried
Old
deep.
Man Consequences isn't physically Edwin, he's saying. Old Man Consequences is like a digital version of Edwin that Edwin thus made to help try to stop the M1 program. Okay.
In that code. But as time's gone on, he's slowly come more and more to the surface, able to help more and more. He helped Vanny fight back against the glitch trap virus. We even saw Moon, the character we've talked about representing Edwin, giving over glitch trap to Vanny so that she could crush it and be free of its influence at the end of Princess Quest 4. And I think in whatever sequel Steelwell has planned, we're going to have to help Old Man Consequences one last time to free M1 of glitch trap's influence and bring Edwin and M1 together to stop M2. They may be doing it for different reasons. Edwin may still want to destroy it. M1 may still want to fix it. But if we can get them to put aside their differences, those counter melodies are going to start to work together to create a complete piece that will end the internal battle of the Mimic once and for all. Although the Mimic in Ruin does seem to have a convenient hole where we had to insert the data diver during the secret ending, so we might have to figure out a different way to get these two fighting programs into it in the first place. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching. World premiere on Game Theory. Over the last year or so, I've been noticing an evolution.
Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this reaction. If you guys did, make sure to give a big fat thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. See you guys in the next video and or live stream. Peace.